correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome back to How We Roll Gaming, the podcast about RPG gaming that we host, and hope everyone has fun. Hope that everyone's had a great couple of weeks since the last episode, or if you've been binging, a great couple of minutes since the last episode. We're recording on kind of an odd day. We're recording on Labor Day because we all have the day off, so we decided to take it easy and not cram recording into a weeknight. So
Well, technically, it's a weekday, but it would be.
It's a long weekend.
It's a 3-day weekend.
Yeah, it's a long weekend, and we hope everyone listening at whatever point had a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I would ask how you guys have been doing over your Labor Day weekend, but I saw you on both we saw each other on Saturday and Sunday for games.
Yes, we did,
Well,
and we had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun. I almost killed Robert in Walking Dead.
Yes, luckily Dante saved me this time, even though I killed his character last time.
Yes, his new character saved you. Because his new character doesn't hold a grudge from the old character.
My character no longer has any secrets, which either means I'm going to evolve or I'm going to die in the future.
Yep, because this is The Walking Dead. And then on Saturday, we continue. I don't know about anybody else, but I am having fun, finally, at long last, learning how to play Legend of the Five Rings. So thank you for running that game for us, Robert.
You're welcome, and we are definitely learning for all of us, especially the combat, because I don't think I fully ran it correctly, but we'll keep trying.
I actually did pull up a video afterwards, and I feel you're pretty close to how I would run it, but I don't think the video I watched was like a quote unquote perfect run through. So, but from what I saw, it's like very similar to how we did.
Yeah, well, it's a big change because I know the 4th edition just used regular like tens and hundreds, while this one, of course, is using Fantasy Flight special dice. So,
because FFG loves their special dice.
Yes, they do.
FFG/Edge, I guess we should say. And I right before we sat down to record, I had to run and get some gas for the grill, because the last time we were grilling burgers outside, I ran out of gas midway through fixing the burgers. So
how much propane and propane accessories did you need?
This is the only man ever censured by the Texas Propane Association for lewdness and conduct unbecoming a propane salesman.
But I mean,
propane is what I know best.
I mean, every time that, like, as I was about to go, Xander came into the room, saw I was putting on shoes. Where are you going? It's like, I am going to get propane. I do not need propane accessories other than the tank that it will come in. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot we needed that.
You have been on a King of the Hill binge lately, so.
The new series is out, but it's on the same streaming channel as Alien Earth, which we've all been enjoying, quote, horrified by.
And which has given us an idea for a near future episode of this very podcast.
Yes, sir.
So we'll be doing that, but now I wish I had thought that I was going to mention Xander coming in. Oh yeah, I forgot we needed that, because I could have also pulled down a clip of that point, right? So anyway, now that we've caught up, let's get a little bit of business out of the way before we get going.
Yeah, but before we dive into our subject, we want to let you know about one of the other great shows on the D20 Radio Network.
Yep. I Should Roll is an actual play podcast set in one of my favorite sci fi universes, the Mass Effect universe, using a homebrew system that's a mix of 5e, Blades in the Dark, Fate, and other mechanics. So, they took a long time to prepare this. They currently have
Yes.
two long form campaigns running: Ride of the Valkyrie, set in 2184, and Dangers, set in 2189.
Yep. And you can find more information on their website, which is simply ishouldroll.com, and get the podcast through your preferred podcast platform. But what we're going to be talking about today is modular adventures or pre-written adventures. And pre-written adventures were some of the earliest additional content that were put out for RPGs, going all the way back to original D&D. And even today, many people's entry into RPGs is by way of published pre-written adventures. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about what we see as, for one of better terms, the strengths and weaknesses of published adventures and how to integrate them or not integrate them into your ongoing campaigns.
Yep, and there are definitely just so many. There's a smorgasbord of what you could use depending on any
A cavalcade,
system.
if you would say.
A cavalcade of published adventures, a plethora of published. I can't think of a synonym for adventures that starts with P to keep the alliteration going.
A menagerie of multi-form option paths for your players.
Yes.
It's almost if you could stack an entire building full of books of them, but I'm not sure what that would be called.
Symmetrical book stacking. No
Jenga
human.
tower?
No human could have done this.
I believe Alexandria used to have one of them, but that was lost in antiquity.
Yes. But we get that you're trying to lead us to say library, Nick. It's not lost on us. Yep. My entry into RPGs, running RPGs, I kind of didn't have much choice but to not use written adventures, because my first real GMing experience way back in the olden times in the 80s was DC Heroes. Now, aside from the box sets with the rules and one or two source books here and there, all they published was adventures, and I bought all of them. But because it was a licensed property dealing with specific characters, DC's comics characters, those adventure modules, with the exception of like 3 or 4 that specifically said, created for your own heroes, were made with specific DC characters in mind. This is a new Teen Titans module. This is a Superman module. This is a Justice League module. There wasn't a lot of leeway to plug your own characters into those. And so that kind of started me off not using pre-written adventures.
And there is
I
a
don't know
kind
about
of stigma, I feel, that there is in the general game master DM zeitgeist of not using published material adventure modules.
I suppose in a sense, but they can definitely be very useful, especially with
Again, I'm not a part of.
new
I
up
was
and coming and
part
release
of that.
systems, because I know Aliens, Walking Dead, and Cyberpunk, all the ones we ran were starting adventures, or like how Alien calls it cinematic adventures, and then Walking Dead just has one in the
Avatar
core rule book.
Legends.
Yeah, and then of course
Walking Dead also has a published starter box game too.
Yeah, and that just shows how, don't want to call it mainstream because it's always been part of the stream, but
It's
yeah,
ubiquitous.
it's not just pre-module adventures come out on their own. I mean, buy any core rulebook, and you'll probably see at the very end pre-made adventure or campaign or something to say this is how you can start out, and then work your way through there.
And again,
Right.
I did remember in my youth getting into the system, be like, at least when I was getting into it in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It's like my DMs were like, we do not do pre-written adventures in this game. We aren't your. I think even like one of them did say, "This isn't your grandfather's D&D."
It's usually a bad thing.
They would still take us eventually to Tomb Annihilation.
Yeah,
Now,
and that brings up a good point. Some, I don't know why, but some modular adventures do get stigmatized as like, well, you're just uncreative if you have to use someone else's work. It's like, come on.
It's the same thing as like these are professional writers, professional people who work on the game.
you say that some pre-written adventures and pre-written campaigns have a stigma, Robert. Did I hear someone behind us saying "Curse of Strahd"?
Oh, trust me, we've heard
I don't
all.
know. Have you been Ross watching Crispy's Tavern?
Not recently, because he hasn't done many RPG horror stories, but that is a recurring theme in his horror stories.
I do know he definitely doesn't like Horde of the Dragon Queen. So,
Which is part of Security of Dragons was honestly, I'll come back and defend that myself.
but true, there
Well,
are
go for it.
some modular adventures that are more well known and more mainstream than others. But definitely, Curse of Strahd is one of them.
Now, I have absolutely nothing against pre-written adventures. Nothing against them at all. Like I say, just my intro into GMing forced me almost to write my own. We ran one of the two of the pre-published adventures for DC Heroes that were made for your own heroes, and the rest of them just couldn't really be made to fit because they were too centered around the specific settings of the characters that they were written for. But especially for a brand new GM, take all of the help that you can get.
Exactly. And even if you don't run the thing, it can give you a good framework or groundwork or the cornerstone you can use to be like, okay, this is how they created their own modular. This is kind of what they were thinking, how they worked it, introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, the whole kit and caboodle. I can use this to start up my own framework.
That's what I exactly say. I will admit though, like, yes, it is definitely a additional cost to starting GMs, and not everyone has the resources to do that. But they, at least investing in one adventure module, maybe if you can't get all the source books you want, at least having a framework does help. And most modern core rulebooks do have like a starting adventure setup for a lot of systems.
I'm going to make a distinction before we go much further between pre-written adventures and specific starter sets.
That's good.
That's a good distinction to make. Yeah, definitely.
Starter sets, the box starter sets, are always designed specifically for the purpose of the players, if not the players and GM, learning the game. It's designed as an introduction. They're usually streamlined and will give everyone a sense of how everything works without going into everything about the system. It's
especially
an appetizer.
More modern ones, they have like at least a starting adventure with hooks to continue the adventure, core rules, pre-made characters, and dice, obviously, to facilitate that adventure, but letting everyone play around with it, but so that they can potentially make a camp. They could potentially make a campaign out of that, but it does fit for also those that are not on the, like, say, like high school or college kids who are just trying to get into it. It's a great starter into things.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's a good distinction to make also, that modulars or even starter sets are not just for the GM, they're also for the players. Because this could not just be the first time a GM is running it, it could be the first time the players are playing it. So it's like, okay, here's how the universe works. Here's a pre-made character so you can see how character creation works, like how you can make out a fully fleshed character, and then you can learn the rules through the starter set. So don't
And
think that
really, that's
modulars
more in
or
the
starter sets are just for
starter sets.
GMs. And that, but it's still useful.
Adventure modules are great to use for GMs if they have competence in the system and they can feel like they can even bring people into the system. I say starter sets are made for people who have like new RPG who this.
Yeah, starter sets are
Yeah.
for both. Modulars are more tiered towards GMs. I will admit that, yes.
Yeah, and that's why I would say no, I would say I've seen insiders in the industry mention that this is exactly the case. It's why we don't see as many adventure books being published these days, because let's face it, the RPG publishers are in the business to make money. They make money by selling the books. Source books, more people in the group are apt to buy, not just the GM. Adventure books, only the GM tends to buy.
Yeah, I can agree with
And
that.
it's
And
not it again,
it
that's
is a business model, and it
on a business
does.
model, it's not a bad one because it still incentivizes both sides. Like newbie GMs will buy more adventure modules. Players who are interested will buy more source books.
Well, it's like we were kind of talking about not too long ago at your house, Nick, that you know it might have just even been this weekend. I don't remember. The days blur by, but using hey, look, we're using Star Wars as an example. Who would have guessed? Um,
We gotta
if
have a bingo
I'm
card at some point.
Nah, not a bingo card, more of a tally mark.
but if I'm playing a bounty hunter in Star Wars, even if I never, ever, ever run a game, I am probably going to buy the core rule book because it has the basic rules so that I know how to play and work on my character between sessions. And I'm going to buy the bounty hunter career book
Yep, no disintegrations.
because it gives me more information about my quote unquote class of character.
Yeah, but
I'm I might
More
buy
options to use, more gear to use, more backgrounds or
and
understanding of the job.
speaking of gear and things, I might also buy the generic Star Wars subline gadgets and gear source book. I might buy the ships and speeders source book
But you could
so that
also,
I have
so as a player group, encourage your GM or help them pool together resources to get those generic stuff so that you can also be access to for the whole group.
But
yeah.
yes, as a GM, you could get those same things, but you also get modular adventures. You definitely get the speeders, the gear, maybe Lords of Now Heda, since you're playing bounty hunters, or maybe that type of underworld type
Setting,
thing. Maybe you
or if
set it
you're
in the
taking
HUD
it more close
space.
to the core
You
world, getting
definitely get the
the things that's
NPC
important.
allies and adversaries book, just to give you an idea of how to
Yeah,
make NPCs.
yeah,
So,
And that's just
and
a
I
there's probably a whole discussion about different types of source books that can be made.
yeah. But we've kind of gone down a slight rabbit hole digression about the business model and all of that. So steering back on track about the adventures, personally, I am the type of person who if I really, really like a game system, I'm gonna buy everything that appeals to me,
Oh yeah,
regardless of what it is. Um,
And this is
so
also like if you have that's advised if you have the means to do
of
that.
course, always,
Books are
always live and
I
do in your means.
inexpensive.
I specifically said I do this,
I do the
This-
same, Daryl.
and you know, even though I doubt I will ever run D&D, I have an appreciation for the setting and the system. So as I am out and about, if I find a really good deal on one of the 5e books that I don't have, I pick it up regardless of how useful it may or may not be. This is my this is my sickness. One of these days we must have an intervention for me. But
Uh, you have to pin me down for my intervention for my mini obsession first.
yes,
yeah, but that's not your only one.
you have to quit cold turkey, Nick. I'm going to come take all of your minis from you.
You only have two hands, Daryl, and I just need to cut off two of them.
No, I will enlist the boy and I will enlist your sister.
Okay, unfair.
Squirrel.
She's quite sneaky.
And a
True,
squirrel.
true.
I will distract you with a squirrel. But personally, as I've gotten back into GMing over the last 10-ish years, I think in that time, I'm trying to think, I've only run one published adventure, not counting starter games. And that was early in running the current Star Wars system. I ran the short one shot that is in the GM's kit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
In
and then of
in my
course, and then I don't know if it's considered a starter game, but when you introduced us to Walking Dead, we did play the starter, the Golden Ambulance adventure.
Yes,
yeah, I
I
kind
guess
of
it
a
would fit
starter.
I'd say of the games, it would probably be probably fit more of a starter adventure because it didn't have
Yeah,
it didn't have a bunch of like ideas afterwards.
Yeah, and then as myself, I know at least in Delta Green wise, I have played a few of their, like GM'd a few of their not well, it's not really a one shot. None of those things can be in one setting except the one of them.
They're
But
kind
they
of
call
called
them
Knights of the Opera, as they're called.
yeah, or they call them scenarios. And I know I've done one scenario with you guys, and that was fun. But I would say Delta Green, just in the setting and the type of sense, since it's all about secret agents and Call of Cthulhu mythos, theirs are little would be more appropriate to run if you're not good at thinking of those type of secret agents, secrecy type things, which I lean
Esoteric
towards a
and
little
more
bit, especially
unusual.
esoteric or horror esque. So I definitely recommend those if you can afford it for those who might be looking at that category because they
But
have a
they are
lot
cheap.
of them.
They are relatively cheap, and there's a lot of them on PDF form.
Just get a humble bundle. They're really helpful.
They do a lot of those. Even the
absolutely. Now,
Patreon, especially the one I turned you guys on to, is like cheap and gives a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and though they did migrate to that new site, which is a lot better.
now I still buy adventure books, but I have gotten to the point that I mostly use them for idea mines because once I
hmm
get a campaign going, because I have a specific concept for a campaign that I'm running, regardless of the setting, sometimes it's really hard to work in a written adventure.
It is, and I've worked in written adventures into several campaigns, and I'll admit it may have looked organic, but it's like It's more for the fact that like I did not have anything that I could put in there.
Yes, which brings to a good topic we can discuss. When you get a modular adventure, it doesn't mean you have to run the said modular adventure. It could be like, ooh, I like this person, I like this setting, I like this course of action, and then I'm going to make it my own type of thing and put it in my campaign.
It details a new location, a new mechanic, a new thing that like,
An
well, I
ally or
really like
antagonist
that.
you really like.
A
But
hook, a scenario. The entire campaign itself, the entire adventure itself doesn't have to be played out, but you're like, oh, I like the hook for it, so we're going to use the setup, and then we're going to see where it goes with my merry band of chaos demons.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
could
or
be
like
even it could be even as
they,
simple as like I like this vehicle or this is a really cool object. I'm just going to take the object.
I'm gonna move it here. It's like I like this setting. I don't think this adventure is would be how my players would interact with this setting, but they detailed the setting, so I'm gonna let my players explore here.
Exactly.
well, and here's a good idea or a good example of two different approaches to two different GMs using the same pre-written adventure. So, a couple weeks ago, the last time I ran, hey, look, we're making yet another example out of Star Wars. The last time I ran my Star Wars Rebel Yell game, it was kind of a downtime session, and the player character who is their manager was going through all of the various jobs that were open to them for their next gig. And as I was sitting down, prepping for the session, I'm writing out what the various jobs are so that I could tell them at that next session. And just for background, I'm looking on the shelf uh, of the Star Wars books because I'm grabbing one particular book for reference for something else. And I saw one of the pre written adventures. And I was like, you know what? Their skill set does not work to run them through this pre written adventure. But what if this pre written adventure is happening in the background of their gig? What if they are
Mm.
what if they are playing a gig at the big reception that is the centerpiece of this pre-written adventure? And so I get to Nick's house and I'm running them through that. And I give the manager the options. And it's like, oh, yes. And there's also a job playing at a museum during an auction on Cloud City. And Nick pauses for a second and he's like, wait a second. Because he was planning just a week later,
Separately, completely.
totally
For
separately, had never mentioned this to me. I hadn't mentioned this to him.
because we're in the middle of a lull between certain games and me reshuffling things.
And what were you preparing to post, Nick?
I was preparing
What were
to
you
literally
preparing to
post
schedule?
the schedule a limited campaign that is that
That
same
module.
adventure.
And so Nick is using the adventure itself as, at the very
And I'm
least, an
running it
outline.
purely with just a few changes to up level the characters, but also up level the stakes.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I have it as the backdrop for one of my adventures.
And
So
part
it's
of
two.
my agreement is like I will not touch anything that you do, because I'm pretty sure, based on the level of our characters, you will not impact anything that they do.
Oh yeah, the idea has never been for the band to interact with the main plot of that module.
I would just
They're
say that,
just
like,
there in the
likely
background.
you will see, like, honestly, if it's happened, honestly, I'd say, like, even though it, again, we're gonna probably wrap this up in before I'd say hold off on your next rebel yell, just so you can sprinkle in like those special events in the background.
Yeah.
I might do that.
And the thing a modular adventure can do, especially if you're running through it, it could give other GMs ideas for new, just created adventures. Because I know running through said heist limited campaign, we gave both Nick and Daryl an idea because we play a bunch of criminals trying to do a heist, and we and some of us know each other from other things, so we keep spoiler alert, we're back in Star Wars again. So we keep referencing like this better not be like the Corellian job, or I swore I'd never worked with you after the Corellian job, or we barely made it out because of the Corellian job, to the point where our group just said, okay, we've referenced it enough, made it so
Brilliant job
grand
happened.
that we need to have a pre before this heist adventure
A
called
prequel.
the Corellian job.
And then that went further, that Nick and I are then going to run an insane, wacky, like same kind of mindset as the Lego Star Wars Specials sequel to this whole trilogy.
To
Yep.
create the unofficial, like, what happened on Corellia did not stay on Corellia, is what I'm kind of
Yeah. So we've got the Corellian job, we're on the Bespin job, and then something comes after it.
Yes. So, those pre-written adventures can spark ideas, a lot of ideas. Like when I ran that one shot for my Star Wars group, one of the bad guys got away. Not me trying to let the bad guy get away, but he got away. And so I always had in mind that he would show back up at some point, but two things happened. The bulk of the group membership changed. Not just characters, but players. And so, with the exception of like 2 PCs, why would this bad guy come after the new group? And the other thing that happened was that, well, the same demon that kills so many campaigns killed this one.
Oh
Scheduling.
no.
And the campaign just
we would
away.
love to make a whole episode about how we could defeat scheduling, but that would be
no one has found that answer yet. Minds greater than ours have tried.
We just all need to win. Everyone in the group needs to win the lottery so that we, have 100% free time.
I proposed we all just turn into a commune, but that would turn into a cult, and I don't want to be a cult leader.
Funny you mentioned that, because actually at my work, my manager posted a funny just saying, now this isn't financial advice, but the Powerball is up to 900 million. So
I'm not saying that on the way home from Nick's house on Saturday, I stopped at a convenience store and got us some Quick Picks. But I am saying that if I did buy Quick Picks, you'll notice that there were no winners Saturday night, and the drawing tonight is up to over $1 billion.
And you aren't wearing purple robes.
No, please. Right. He'd go capes. He knows it.
Yeah, I would totally go capes.
Yeah.
But
I would totally go capes.
What Modular's pre-written interventions isn't even just the adventures behind the core rules can do as well is, like I said, give you a good framework. My best example, or the best for a mind like mine that likes organization, is actually back to Cyberpunk, because they actually because of course in Cyberpunk you run gigs. They're not called really adventures, and more just gigs for your solos.
They're
they
a
have a
bit
way to.
shorter, but that kind of fits that
Yeah,
fast life, fast death setting of Cyberpunk.
yeah, but they actually give you an entire like skeleton to run it. Like there's hooks, and then there's development and cliffhangers and climaxes. And this has good structure, and then all the adventure modules I have related to this give good examples of like, okay, how you structure this. And I found that's very helpful when it comes to me
Incredibly.
constructing my own gigs that I
And actually,
show
I
you
will
guys when it's time to
defend.
play.
I'll actually defend one of the. I do feel that, not to get into the greater fandom of like D&D, but it's like D&D 5e has gotten a bit of a bad rap in my opinion, but so is every edition of D&D.
Nothing as bad as fourth edition I've seen so far.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not D&D 5e really that has the bad rap. It's Hasbro and their handling of D&D 5e that has the bad rap.
Yeah.
Which is weird because they've always handled it.
Yeah, but it's always the recent scandals that get the
Yeah.
attention.
But when D&D 5e first came out, the Tyranny of Dragons, which was Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of the Dragon Queen. Now, better you can actually get it in a new revised single book. Was just pure D&D adventure stuff. I'll admit, it's plain. It's simple. It's like you and the party meet along the way with a caravan going to a palace, and it's under attack by some brigands. And the adventure continues as like it's your classic D&D stuff. It's like
Yeah.
as simple as it is, that's not the point of it. It's supposed to be simple because as a GM, you have to, no matter how well detailed, well written an adventure is, guess what? There's always that. It goes back to like classic understanding. It's like nothing
There's the X
survives,
factor of the players.
survives meeting the players.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
always going to
Nick,
be the tropes. There's always going to be tropes in the modular adventures because there's always tropes in everything.
And
yeah, Nick,
honestly, the more tropey the adventure, the either like that's great for players who've never played before because they can be like, "Oh, I'm supposed to, as the scout, as the ranger, I'm the scout. I need to go in there, or I'm the fighter. I need to get ready to take them on." It's like, but for players that have done it before, it's like I'll play the rogue a little differently,
Or it's
or
like you say something and they're like, I see what you're doing. I see what you did there.
Nick, it's kind of funny that you mentioned the newish collection of that because I said if I see a good deal at half price books or whatever.
oh, you actually have that? I have
Mm-hmm.
wanted to actually see. I do have the original postings above Horde and then Fighting the Dragon Queen, so I actually do want to see how they actually like call.
They also included Rise of Tiamat in it.
Oh, cool!
So
And like
I'll
that.
bring that over next time.
Thank you. I would love to see that because it is an adventure that takes you from level 1 to 20.
Oh,
It's not
wow.
meant.
Yeah, that's a long adventure.
It's a proper adventure, but also truncated. In that, like, if you play it quote unquote properly, it could be around like 30 or so sessions.
I can
And
see
that's
it.
if you have a team that is like, yes, you're stuck on the compound.
Now the odd thing with pre-written adventures is, and I see this kind of question online a lot, and it's regardless of the game system. I've seen it for Star Wars. I've seen it for D&D. I've seen
You
it
know what you're gonna
for,
say.
Yep, I know
but
too.
it's like What order do I run them in? Well, what order sounds right to you? For the most part, there's not a set. This is part 1, this is part 2, this is part 3, because it's the progression of the characters, not you're not reading installments in a series of books.
That gets into I think the final part is where okay, those are great starting points or great points you could insert. But part of inserting and developing it is you gotta fudge the numbers. You gotta upgrade difficulties. You gotta change challenges to fit your players.
Yes, because even the modules themselves will say, okay, this is the adventure, but you don't have to read it like it's a storybook, or you don't have to treat it like it's gospel, because that brings in the whole, okay, the characters are zigging, but the module says they have to do this, so I have to railroad them back to zagging. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, you do not have to railroad them.
Again, if it fits the better narrative, follow the players. Or if you feel the players are lost in the sauce because they're not used to this, they have ways to gently nudge them back onto the path.
Yes, but that brings it to another question that most GMs ask. Well, these modulars are available for anyone to pick up, provided you got the cash. So, what if someone's read the modular adventure before? What do I do then, either knowingly or unknowingly?
Well,
Yeah,
there's two ways to look at it.
Proceed, sir.
On the one hand, I usually use pre-runs as guidelines. I will change them up, and I'll often, even if I don't change them up, I will wink behind the curtain. I'll just do a little fib and say I haven't changed anything, so that those who have pre-read are still caught off guard. But it's a little bit of fibbing.
Yeah, or you could just, I mean, like Nick did when he is now running the heist game. He said, "Okay, I'm running this, so I just request that no one read it or no one reread it because I have said module and I can recognize the art you picture because I'm like, oh, I remember that, but I don't remember how the story goes because I haven't looked at it in a while. But I'm not touching it.
I have it. I've read through it ages ago. Nick inserted it into one of the other campaigns that I played in, or at least part of it.
And I've ran a whole one before with players that you haven't played with before.
And so I am doing my. I can't metagame a lot, even if I wanted to, because it's been a while since I've actually read it.
But basically saying that, I sort of, for my currently going on Jewel Yavin game, I basically was I recognize that some of you guys have it. Some of you might have read through it. And I've changed things. I've raised the difficulty level of characters. I've added in new elements since that game was written. And also, I'm just accepting the fact that, if there is anything you recognize, it's not going to be the same.
Yes, because don't think you can do action A because module says it leads to result B because the game master, of course, can still run the structure but has creative license to be like, okay, action A now leads to result D instead of B.
And usually, if I see if in a extreme example, if I had seen someone be like, "Oh, I recognize this part from this adventure," and see them trying to quote unquote metagame, I'd be like, "Well, already prepared for that. Its adventures been out for easily about like 6 or 7 years now.
Oh, longer.
Oh yeah, because it was part of the first core rulebook fantasy ever put out, so
Nice,
it'll be longer.
Maybe, yeah, it's over a decade.
Only 10 years. Yeah, it's probably around 10 years old.
So it's like,
so Nick, I'm gonna confess something here to you.
whoa.
Oh,
One of the old campaigns I did slightly metagame when you introduced elements of Mask of the Pirate Queen
which I still want to play
into one of the campaigns. I don't even remember which one. Having remembered the sidebar saying that, yeah, if you have particularly enterprising players, and they think of this, they can take the Pirate Queen's mask and become the new Pirate Queen. I sat there, since I was sitting next to Stephanie, I was like, take the mask. Take the mask and become the new Pirate Queen.
Oh. Also, spoilers for Robert.
Sorry, Robert. Well, it seems obvious, but and then to answer our previous question, Daryl was actually right. Jewel of Yavin came out March 31st, 2014.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Right before April Fool's Day.
I did metagame a little bit with that. I'm sorry, Nick. But I knew that she would cause spectacular chaos with.
Oh, it was really good. It was really good. We just Robert, how do you feel okay with us like just hitting you with like a really strong hammer and making you forget that?
Well, I will also admit I bought it and read it, so I already knew that.
Okay, so I'll need a stronger hammer to make him forget that.
Nah, just give it a few months. It won't. I'll forget it.
His cache will clear, and new information will replace it.
I mean, I kind of alluded that I did, because when we were running Legacy of the Force, one of the places we went to was on Ord Mantell, and we used the bar that was in the Mask of the Pirate Queen as one of the locations.
This is true. But again, that's also another thing. Like, you could just strip these advanced modules for parts.
And that's what I do with them for the most part. I do
too. I mean, in my now on hiatus as an Empire campaign, one of the main points in the campaign is I'm using an antagonist who's searching for the same MacGuffin that's in one of the adventure modules. I'm using Jacera and the crystals that she's after, and that's become a big part of it.
When you're using a published adventure module too, you also have the opportunity that a player can come out of left field with something totally off the wall that adventure could never ever possibly think of. Are you remembering what I'm thinking of, Nick?
Yes.
So, Robert, I think you've heard this story. In one of our surprise Star Wars campaigns that was Force related,
this is why we're not running. This is why this isn't a drinking game. You will die.
Nick was running part of the Chronicles of the Gatekeeper Force and Destiny module. And we were having to get something from this high muckety muck who was basically in charge of this village of bird people. And it was around Christmas, so Nick was introducing elements that weren't in the module that resembled a Christmas Carol. Or wait, no, you didn't introduce those elements. I did with my swerve.
Oh, no, yeah. This was entirely, you saw the situation of what I created, a curmudgeonly former Jedi who is sort of became like the pseudo dictator of the bird people.
Yes. So I had the misdirect power. I could create illusions.
And you turned this, and I'll let you continue from there.
I, being that it was around the holidays, turned the end of this segment of Chronicles of the Gatekeeper into a Christmas Carol.
Yep, you've never told me this story.
I made the curmudgeonly dictator see the spirit of his old business, of his old, was it his old master or his old Padawan, since he was a former Jedi?
It was his former master because he failed to meet him during Order 66.
And then he saw the spirit of Life Day past. And then he saw the spirit of Life Day present and the spirit of Life Day yet to come. And I introduced a little bird person, Tiny Tim analog, and the whole 9 yards, because my roles were working. And Nick being Nick was being very generous and playing along. And as long as the roles work and you narrate this, go for it.
Again, not
Nick
how
did his famous just
the Gatekeeper sequence was supposed to go. It was both like the fact that, again, I didn't even imply that that was an option. You thought of that your own.
Yep.
And convinced the rest of the players to play along, because they also had to be part of your illusion.
Yep. And
so it had to be the whole party. Like, if you're going to do this, he's going to need players to play the part.
And through turning it into a Christmas Carol, convinced the curmudgeonly, now former dictator of the bird people to willingly hand over the MacGuffin that we were there to get.
Yep, and that just goes to show modulars can go anywhere you want to.
And force bless us, everyone.
The part was like, yeah, it was supposed to be, you are supposed to bring him back to the light and to make him realize his wicked deeds. So it was still in the spirit of what the adventure wanted. And because it was a Jedi Force space game, so it fits the setting, it just was not how it was written.
Yeah.
It wasn't remotely how you expected us to get there.
Yeah.
But I was like, you still accomplished the task as quote unquote written.
Yeah, and Modular Adventures
wrote in your own answer to the question.
Yeah, and the Modular Adventures, like we said, can be rewritten. Even starter sets can do it, but there are also times where you can play it to form and just also have just funny times. Because I remember when Nick did the Force and Destiny starter set game, and we were just playing the pre-written pre-gen characters. And then just throughout the campaign, your character, Dale, just somehow lost both his arms. It's just like,
well, that was karma, because when Nick ran the Age of Rebellion starter game, by remembering a tactic that we had done in an earlier run of it, we speed ran the entire beginner game. The beginner game that on average takes about 4 hours. We got to the end of the printed module in like 30 minutes. Because we speed ran.
It was rather impressive.
We speed ran past the first obstacle, and then other players, including people who were brand new to the system and the game and had never played that starter box before, thought of a way to accomplish the next obstacle that basically tipped over dominoes that got us to the end of the printed module with just that one action.
Anyway, it was rather impressive.
Yeah, but it was still funny because you said you better not get the same roll, and he got the exact same number
on the crit. Like, a bad roll can definitely derail some of those. It's like, I wouldn't call it I wouldn't call it a RPG horror story.
No, this is a funny story.
It's just rather humorous.
And
They're
it's
just
the
like,
best you've
oh
ever
no, you
rolled on
took
a
one of
crit
my
table.
legs. And then the other one is like, oh no, you took my other leg.
Well, it's the best you've ever rolled on a crit table.
But with players who've read the adventure module, I've found that if you have a good player, they won't metagame.
Yeah.
A player that is
That's
going to
usually-
metagame is going to find ways to game the system anyway.
Or
But I
at the
feel like,
worst, they'll be
honestly,
the
the
one
most-
that, or the worst, they'll be the one that challenges the GM that says, "That's not how that's written. You're doing it wrong."
But that's not how
Okay.
I'm playing it. Go away.
It's either they challenge based on they think they know the rules because they know the stories. Like, that's not how a story based game goes. Or they're ultimately the ones that screw over everyone else. Or give one character the like, you're the most powerful in this, so I'm going to give you advice, but then they're the one that fails.
Yeah, but we have been blessed to not have a group of any of those type of people.
Yep.
But it is something that should be aware. Like, there will always be guys that will be min maxers.
Or the ones
People
where you
who
say, "Okay, we're
play-
gonna play this modular adventure," and they'll be like, "Okay," and then they immediately go home.
They immediately go out, buy it, read it, and
watch several podcasts of better, likely better, like not to degrade anyone, but like likely higher, more experienced people who play them and who like to play into those tropes and play into that for the fact that they want to show off that the majesty of the story.
Yeah.
And they'd be surprised when like, oh, I don't have like a team of like experienced heavy level RPers and they aren't getting huge 20s all the time. It's like,
Yeah, I'm not putting mics everywhere and having like a movie set performance studio ready to record everything.
right. That's
again,
down the line for us.
I don't want to break. It's usually brought up by someone like Crick Crab, who is a very great channel.
I love
to
him.
Follow.
Same with Den of the Dragon.
Den of the Dragon too. But there's the quote unquote Matt Mercer effect. It represents a larger commercialized D&D experience, but they're more true than they are like actual D&D experiences. I feel like what I have with you guys is just what the average is. It's guys. We get pizza. We hang out.
We find ways to subvert your plans.
Sometimes the dice are just not in anyone's favor or in one person's favor.
But all in all, we just have fun and have great stories.
And that makes the stories great. It's like, again, like on paper, like Tyranny of Dragons would probably say, like, on paper, Tyranny of Dragons, if written in like a proper movie sense, would make a really cool story. Guess what it's lacking? Characters.
Put the Honor Among Thieves people through it.
Basically, it's just like, that's why like D&D Honor Amongst Thieves is probably the best representation of D&D as a whole.
Except, they actually got to the end without having scheduling problems.
Technically, they did have to wait a while.
They did
due to COVID.
Yeah, but they just had fun playing them.
Honestly, that's how it made it better. It's like, okay, we're stuck inside, so what are we gonna do?
Want to play the movie?
And they're like, oh, this is better. This is way more fun. And that's D&D. Don't expect going into D&D unless you feel like you and your players are ready for like a quote unquote like epic adventure. You're not going there for Lord of the Rings like with tight.
Don't walk in expecting Lord of the Rings, because you're going to get Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
And
More
just
often than not,
enjoy it.
have fun, vibe with the players. Be like, okay, I want to be the cool stoic guy. No, I like this weird goblin dude. I want to be on the team.
Yeah, instead of experiencing a movie, just go in and tell a story with the others.
Yeah.
And again, don't see the DM as the DM isn't the enemy. The DM just wants to see you all have fun.
Yeah, the DM will throw enemies at you, but he's not an enemy himself. He's making the story with you.
I explained that several times to my uncle. Was like, "Are you winning, Nick?" It's like, well,
there's no winning.
My friends
well,
are.
Technically, there is. We all have fun.
There is no single victor.
You know, despite what it may seem at times, I'm not trying to. Unlike Nick in the Alien game, I'm not actively trying to kill the player characters in Walking Dead.
Exceeding beyond my expectations.
No, just in The Walking Dead, Nick is actively trying to kill his character, which is usual Nick mannerisms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to play too heavily into the tropes of, like, Robert, your character had the big emotional arc in yesterday's session. I'm trying not to play into the tropes of the TV show that, well, that means he's dead. He's going to die next session.
Well, that's because we don't have a huge cast roster.
But even if I do, even though I love Hank, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah. You know, I'm not trying to actively kill any of you, but if it happens, because this is Walking Dead, so the stakes are going to increase.
Oh, we knew by your end of credit scene that it's going to increase.
But yeah, I feel like there's so much to work with in terms of the idea of written adventures. There's so much to look into, and yeah, there's some infamous ones. There's like, if you run them straight, like, people are like, it's so formulaic or has a reputation. It's like, that's just one experience.
Yeah, and we're not saying that experience is inherently wrong. It's just how fun you make it.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say a good rule of thumb when using a pre-written adventure is, yes, it's pre-written and most of the heavy lifting is done for you, but don't treat it as an inviolable blueprint.
It ain't gospel.
Make it your own. Make it your own and tweak it to fit your game's style and your players' situations.
If the player zigs, you can zag.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully, if you tweak it a little, you're not going to get copyrighted for it.
Yeah, nobody's going to come to your door and knock and, hey, you didn't play this right.
Yeah, it's not Nintendo.
It's off to GM jail for you.
Honestly, that's why there's so many live playthroughs, because it's like public domain. You do it your own way.
It's also, if the business is looking at it rightly, it's free advertising.
That's true.
Absolutely.
I think we hit all those nails on the head and clipped those hanging chads.
Yep.
True.
What a timely reference, Nick.
Yep. We've hit the nail on the head just like the horse hit your character back in Walking Dead.
No, it's been a month. Too soon.
It's been 2 months.
I mean, of course, the farmer would know to jump in front of a bucking horse is the smartest thing to do.
But you bullied me, so that means.
I guess that does have a signal. So.
I guess that does count as bullying. So it is time for me to say, check out our website at howwerollgaming.com. And on our website, you'll find information about our current campaigns, the podcast archive, and links to our merch store and all of our social media across Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, X, Discord, you name it. We may or may not be there. I know we're on the ones that I just mentioned.
Yeah, and you can also, if you don't want to do all that, you can also directly support the show through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/howwerollgaming and you'll see our different membership tiers starting at just $2 a month with special recognition on our Discord server and higher tiers giving you on-air credit and discounts on our merch store.
And finally, if you have any questions you'd like us to answer, topics you'd like us to cover, or even submit your own RPG glory stories, shoot us an email at podcast@howwerollgaming.com.
We want to thank all of you for listening. I would like to thank Nick and Robert for joining me on this lovely working holiday. So we did a little bit of fun work on our day off.
But it is Labor Day.
Yes.
And we had our labor.
Yep. It is always a pleasure to chat
but if you actually
with you two.
If you love what you work, you don't work a day in your life.
Yeah, I work 5 days a week.
It depends on the day whether I treat it as a job or just the day.
But thank you, everyone. Thank you all for listening. We hope to see you back next time, hear you back next time, and we will talk at you all later regarding games. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Bye-bye.